The theater lights dimmed, and the restless murmurs of the crowd settled into an expectant hush. Hundreds of people filled the seats, the kind of audience that had seen countless hopefuls take the stage before, some good, some forgettable, and a rare few unforgettable. Among them, a boy of just 15 years stood nervously in the wings, gripping an old guitar that looked far too worn for such a grand stage. His name was Daniel Reyes, though most people in his small hometown simply called him Danny. He was tall and lanky, with dark brown hair that never quite behaved and eyes that held a depth far older than his years. For Danny, this wasn't just another performance, it was the moment that could change everything. Behind him was a life filled with struggle, a mother who worked double shifts at a diner to keep food on the table, a little sister who depended on him for comfort when the nights grew cold and uncertain, and the haunting absence of a father who had walked away years ago. The guitar in his hands had been a gift from that father long before he left, and though the man was gone, the instrument remained, carrying the weight of memories and pain alike. Danny took a shaky breath as his name was announced. The spotlight hit him like a wave, blinding and terrifying, yet in that brightness he felt the pull of something greater, an invisible thread that drew him forward. He stepped out, the guitar strap slung across his shoulder, his sneakers scuffing against the polished floor of the stage. From the seats below, curious eyes followed him, some skeptical, some supportive, all waiting. He adjusted the microphone and tried to steady his trembling hands. The judges, seated at their table, glanced at one another. He was just another boy, they thought, another hopeful teenager chasing a dream. But Danny wasn't here for fame, not really. He wasn't even here for himself. He was here for his sister, Emily, who had once whispered to him through tears, "Danny, when you sing, it makes the world feel less scary." The host gave him a nod, and Danny leaned into the mic. "Hi, my name's Daniel, but most people just call me Danny," he said, his voice small but steady. "I'll be singing Hotel California, and I hope you like it." There was a polite round of applause, though some in the audience exchanged doubtful looks. Hotel California? A song like that wasn't easy, it carried weight, history, and a sound so iconic that most who dared to touch it fell short. Danny strummed the first chords. The guitar, though battered, sang beautifully under his fingers, as though it too had been waiting for this moment. His voice, clear and soulful, rose gently into the air. The audience leaned forward, surprised by the richness of his tone, the maturity that threaded through every note. It wasn't a perfect copy of the song, it was something different. It was raw, vulnerable, filled with a yearning that came not from technical skill but from lived experience. By the second verse, the room was utterly silent. Every eye was fixed on him, every heart caught in the honesty of his voice. He wasn't just singing lyrics, he was telling a story, pouring out years of loneliness, loss, and hope. The song became his confession, his prayer, his gift to the world that had so often overlooked him. Midway through, something unexpected happened. A string on his guitar snapped with a sharp twang. The audience gasped, and for a moment, Danny froze, panic flashing across his face. But then, almost instinctively, he adjusted, shifting the chords, modifying the rhythm, and continuing as though nothing had happened. His voice grew even stronger, carrying the weight of determination. The broken string no longer mattered, if anything, it mirrored his own life, fractured, imperfect, yet still capable of beauty. The audience, sensing his resilience, erupted into applause mid-song. But Danny kept singing, his eyes closing as he reached the chorus, his soul pouring out in every word. By the time the final note hung in the air, there was no applause at first, just stunned silence. It was as if no one wanted to break the fragile spell he had cast. And then, slowly, the room erupted. Cheers, whistles, thunderous clapping, an ovation so powerful it shook the walls of the theater. People were on their feet, tears glistening in more than a few eyes. The judges, too, were moved. One of them, a woman known for her sharp critiques, leaned forward and whispered into the mic, her voice trembling, "Danny, that wasn't just a performance. That was a gift. You've reminded us what music is supposed to do, it's supposed to make us feel." Danny's eyes welled up, though he tried to hide it. He bowed, clutching the guitar tightly. But before he could leave the stage, something extraordinary happened. from the audience, a man stood up, a stranger, dressed in a business suit, tears streaming down his face. "Son," he called out, his voice breaking, "your song, it reminded me of my own boy. I lost him years ago, and tonight, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I heard his voice again. Thank you." The theater grew quiet once more, the weight of the man's words sinking deep. Danny, moved beyond words, stepped closer to the edge of the stage. "Sir," he said softly, "I don't know your pain, but if my song helped even a little, then I'm grateful. Music has always been my way of keeping hope alive. Maybe it can do the same for you." The man nodded, unable to speak further, and sat down as the audience erupted again. But this wasn't the end. Backstage, after the performance, Danny was approached by one of the judges, who told him, "Danny, I've been in this industry for decades, and I've rarely seen an audience respond like that. You're not just talented, you have heart. And heart, that's what the world needs." Word of his performance spread quickly, clips circulating online, people sharing the video with captions like, "This boy will restore your faith in music," and raw talent meets raw emotion. But for Danny, the most important moment came later that night, when his sister Emily hugged him tightly, whispering through happy tears, "You did it, Danny. You made them feel it, just like you make me feel safe when you sing." Danny realized then that the true power of his performance wasn't in impressing judges or gaining fame, it was in touching hearts, in reminding people of their shared humanity. He had walked onto that stage as a nervous boy with an old guitar, but he walked off as something far greater, a symbol of resilience, of kindness, of the truth that even in brokenness, beauty can be found. In the weeks that followed, Danny's life began to change. Opportunities came, doors opened, but he never let go of the reason he had started. He continued to sing for Emily, for his mother, and for anyone who needed hope. And in every note of Hotel California, and every song after, there was a piece of his soul, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful performances come not from perfection, but from the courage to keep singing even when the strings break. Because in the end, Danny's story wasn't about fame. It was about the boy who walked onto a stage and left the world speechless, not with flawless technique, but with the unshakable truth that music, like love, has the power to heal. And as the audience that night discovered, sometimes all it takes is one song, one voice, and one act of courage to remind us of the beauty in simply being human.